What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, Joker back again, once again. So on the first day of the Iron Banner tournament, I loaded into the tower and ran to see what Lady Aphrodite had to offer, only to be greeted by Lord Saladin. When you open up his inventory, you see his tag and title at the bottom of the screen. Lord Saladin, the last surviving Iron Lord, oversees the Iron Banner event, Trial by Combat, where only the strongest survive. This begs a few questions. 1. Where is Lady Aphrodite? And 2. When did we stop being an Iron Lord?
Approach. There was a time that only Iron Lords carried these blades. There are many like this in our armory, but this one is new. It is yours, young wolf. You are the first of a new generation. Take your place as an Iron Lord.
And why does Lord Saladin never reference it or call us young wolf when Lord Shax does?
Saladin's young wolf. My armory is open to you. Follow the path from there. It will lead you through the hangar to the plaza. I'll take care of these people. If the Cabal want war, give them war.
Now, it's not necessarily odd that Lady Aphrodite isn't heading up the Iron Banner. We know that before she took up her post at the Iron Banner, she was part of some pacifist colony. According to the Lady Aphrodite Grimoire card, which is only available on a third-party site like Ishtar Collective, now Aphrodite serves as the new Iron Banner representative while Lord Saladin devotes his attention to the Siva crisis. She urges Guardians to see the Banner tournament as a chance to strengthen their light, for fighting and for more metaphysical purposes. The Vanguard are also intrigued by Aphrodite's accounts of a non-military Guardian community in the Deep System, but Aphrodite, though happy to talk about the group's pacifist philosophies, refuses to disclose the settlement's location at present. So it's not unreasonable to assume that she went back home between the events of Rise of Iron and Destiny 2. On that same note, it's also not unreasonable to think that she's lying dead in a ditch somewhere. Both possibilities really are equally valid until one is disproven. Destiny 2 really doesn't seem to care about the continuity of the franchise, and there seems to be a huge blind spot when it comes to Rise of Iron. Now, before I get inundated with, "But Joker, it's a reboot!" No, it really isn't. Everything from Savathun, this or that, scattered across both Titan and Io, to all the Fallen Houses being under one banner, to the subclass quest where Cade 6 recounts Grimoire cards almost verbatim.
My old friend Andal, he used to stand right here, right in this spot. He'd come up with these wild stories. He'd say, Cade, I've been examining the evidence personally. I've come to think it's you. You're Rasputin, legendary war mind, defender of Earth. And I wish you'd remember that so you could reclaim your full power and save us all. You can see how that'd be embarrassing. So I say what I want to say every day. It's no secret. I say, well, I'll go find it then. I'll go tell Rasputin we need its help. And Akura looks at me with one of those looks that sometimes you talk to Akura and you just think, wow, you're not even using a fraction of your brain on me, are you? One of those looks. She says, Cade, the problem isn't just that we can't find Rasputin. The problem is it's not clear to any of us that Rasputin wants to be found. The nobleman stood, and the people looked at him, for he was a beacon, hope given form, yet still only a man. And within that truth, there was great promise. If one man could stand against the night, then so too could anyone. So too could everyone. In his strong hand, the man held a rose, and his aura burned bright.
And this is before we start talking about things like Wei Ning, Hahanin, Toland, Osiris. Not only does this game require a knowledge of the lore, but it often writes itself as if the lore was an integral part of the first game, and not just cards that, again, are currently only accessible thanks in large part to sites like Ishtar Collective, because Bungie has removed them from their own website. So I don't think it's an understatement to say that the current Bungie writing staff either doesn't understand the continuity of the game world or doesn't care about it. I think a lot of the original writing for Destiny 1 was overseen or exclusively created by Joseph Staten, all the way up through the Taken King. Because as we all know, the Taken King, or at very least the Dreadnought, was originally part of Destiny 1's vanilla campaign, till it was cut. And you can see from Taken King to Rise of Iron where the continuity starts to go off track. The most egregious offender is all the lore surrounding Dredge and Yor. Because every video is somebody's first, up until Rise of Iron, Dredge and Yor was generally accepted to be a hunter. And this makes a lot of sense thematically. It really fits the Wild West epic that the Thorn Grimoire cards and the Last Word Grimoire cards were going for. The Thorn Grimoire card and the Last Word Grimoire card followed the stereotypical white hat versus black hat, good guy versus bad guy, spaghetti western, where the black hat takes something from the white hat and the white hat goes out to seek revenge. On top of this, you have several pieces of gear throughout Destiny 1 that allude to Dredge and Yor being a hunter. You have the Hunter Cloak, the Cloak of Dredge and Yor, and then you have the Hunter Artifact, Dredge and Yor's Rose. Also, on a side note, it's kind of interesting that Cade 6 is the one that tells us the story about Dredge and Yor, when all the other subclass quests tend to only tell stories about that subclass, or that class. And yet in Rise of Iron, between the beginning of Rise of Iron and the Age of Triumph, someone decided to take the character of Dredge and Yor, which had already been pretty much established as a hunter, and turn them into a Titan, because reasons. The way the Razilla Zir stories reads is, well, kind of like fanfiction. It's like somebody had a very, very passing knowledge of the character of Dredge and Yor, and they were tasked with writing Dredge and Yor's origin story. And then they didn't do any of the prerequisite research and just wrote this story of this fall from grace of this really cool Titan. Because they didn't care about continuity, they cared about the story that they wanted to tell. And this is kind of all over the place in Destiny 2. The first cutscene of Ghaul and his advisor throws out 3 years of established continuity when it comes to the Cabal. Yes, we don't really know anything about the Cabal, but what we do know is they had no clue what the Traveler was and no clue what the Light was. This is why the Cabal crashed the Daedalin Exodus into Oryx's Dreadnought, because the Cabal figured the Hive capital ship might have information that they needed in order to combat the Light. Destiny 2 retcons a lot of this. Not only is Ghaul not responding to the distress signal the Cabal in our system sent back to the Empire, but the Cabal have been following the Traveler and learning from the civilizations it's uplifted for centuries. And not only does Ghaul not just know how to stop our Light, but he knows how to harness it as well. This is a huge jump from not knowing how to deal with tactical dead persons to Master of the Traveler. Now, there is a huge difference between continuity porn and maintaining continuity when writing a new story. You don't need to constantly be referencing the past unless the current storyline is directly based off of those events. This is what Destiny 2 does a lot. It spends a lot of time referencing stuff, but very little time actually maintaining continuity. And of course, that brings us right back to the Iron Banner and Rise of Iron. When Destiny 2 was announced, in the following weeks it was also announced that the Grimoire was going away. I of course was against this, saying very, very early on how I expected lore to be implemented in Destiny 2. I said, it's not going to be some great in-game codex that we've been asking for years. No, it's going to be one-time scannable objects that often have less depth than weapon flavor text that you're going to have to try to listen to over enemy fire. If like me, you are a lore guy and or girl and or robot, and you want to make lore videos, then you better be ready to systematically record and label everything way ahead of time. Not just find what you need when you need it, because in Destiny 2, you've only got one chance to record any of the lore unless you want to play the entire game all over again just to record one piece of lore. To say this complicates things is an understatement, but I digress. Between the end of Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, there are a lot of unanswered questions. And, well, just odd choices made. When you load into the farm for the first time, you see Tyra Karn. If you walk up and you talk to her, you see that she was in the city during the attack. I guess this isn't beyond the realm of plausibility, but she was the cryptarch of the Iron Temple. Why wasn't she there? On that same note, we often see Shaxx and the Vanguard throughout the entirety of the campaign, but where's Lord Saladin? Where's Shiro 4? Speaking of Saladin in the Iron Temple, why didn't we go there after we got our powers back and started to rally the Vanguard? It's a vastly more defensible position than the farm, and the model's already in the game. Also, the farm becomes useless for most of the campaign, and entirely useless after the endgame, where the Iron Temple at least had sentimental value. If I sound confused, it's because this doesn't make any sense. I mean, the Iron Temple is a play space we helped to establish, making it the closest thing to player housing we've ever seen in Destiny. It's also the base of operations for the Iron Lords, which we are an Iron Lord. And this is where, in a lot of ways, the game really starts to infuriate me. We are an Iron Lord, and the game doesn't treat us like one.
You are the first of a new generation. Take your place as an Iron Lord.
And there is some importance to being an Iron Lord. Bungie spent 3 years building up what the Iron Lords were, then at the end of Rise of Iron, we become one. In fact, we start to rebuild the Iron Lord Order. This is important because it's the closest thing to ever forming a faction within the world of Destiny that the player will ever get. Destiny 2 largely treats Rise of Iron like it never happened, and it's not like it would be hard to fix a lot of these continuity issues. I mean, that's what the Grimoire was so great at doing, explaining the deeper aspects of the lore and the things that may have conflicted with one another. Destiny 2 could have very easily established what went on in regards to the Iron Lords, the Iron Temple, Tyra Karn, Lord Saladin, Lady Ephrdi, Shiro 4, and all of the events between Rise of Iron and Destiny 2, by utilizing one of the replacements for the Grimoire cards, the Lore tab. None of the Iron Banner weapons have a lore tab. I'm sorry, like, what? Like, what? How do you fuck that up? No, really. Even if they didn't use it to explain the in-game transition between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, as far as Lord Saladin, Lady Ephrdi, and our status as an Iron Lord goes, then they could have just put the associated Grimoire cards for each Iron Lord with each Iron Lord's weapon. Again, sorry if I just sound confused and perplexed, but why, when I click the Days of Fury grenade launcher, the grenade launcher forged in the memory of Radagast, don't I see the Radagast Grimoire card? Why, when I click the Days of Fury grenade launcher forged in the memory of Radagast, why don't I see a lore tab that at the very least just has the Radagast Grimoire card? I mean, why would that have been hard to do? In fact, what they could have done was tell a story of what happened between Rise of Iron and Destiny 2 on the armor, and then use the weapons to tell the story of the Iron Lords. And in Destiny 2, we get neither an explanation of what's going on with certain characters, nor do we get a copy pasta of the lore. We get nothing. And this is quite frankly a stupid choice to make, almost incompetent, because it doesn't take the opportunity to continue continuity for Destiny 1 players, but nor does it take the opportunity to explain the lore of the Iron Banner and these weapons and who they're forged in the memory of for new players. because it doesn't take the opportunity to continue continuity for Destiny 1 players, but nor does it take the opportunity to explain the lore of the Iron Banner and these weapons and who they're forged for to new players. The Iron Banner also lost its teeth, its gimmick. If you stand around Lord Saladin or read any of the associated text, it tells you that the Iron Banner is supposed to be light level based. A playlist for PvP where your power level matters. This has always been how the Iron Banner was run. Now, we can argue back and forth, and I'm sure people will, if it actually mattered, but that's a discussion for another day. The light level thing, the light level gimmick, was what made the Iron Banner different from normal Crucible, and it clearly is still a part of the lore. And they recorded in-game dialogue for it, and yet, once again, all of this is just lip service, paid to lore, but the in-game continuity is not upheld. What? Why would you decide that? Why would you do that? What's the point? At the end of the day, there is somebody somewhere in charge of making whatever decisions about things that get into the game, get in the story, our continuity, or how much Bungie actually cares about continuity, or how held to continuity the writers are. And this person either doesn't understand the world that they're working on, or they just don't fucking care. But, like always, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below, and like always, stay frosty.